I feel the most empowered when I'm doing the work of God, serving his people. So if it's through urban education, to my mentorship, to supporting moms and babies with Cleft and Palate, I feel like when I'm able to serve others, that's when I feel the most empowered.
Hello, you are listening to the Her Complexion Podcast. I am your host, Antoinette Booker, the founder of Her Complexion Network, and this podcast where we discuss all things Black women, her career, her bag, and her melanin. Our podcast conversations will be all about Black women taking up space in the boardroom, Black women securing the bag through building generational wealth, and Black women becoming the best version of themselves by all means necessary. Hey ladies, welcome back to the Her Complexion Podcast. This is your host, Antoinette Booker. I am the owner of Her Complexion Network, and I'm super excited to record another episode this week. On the podcast this week, we are interviewing Alexia Young. Alexia and I, we are sorority sisters. We actually crossed together at the University of Memphis back in 2009, and I'm super excited to have her here on the show today. So let's go ahead and get started. Alexia, tell us about yourself for those who don't know you.
I am Alexia Young, a native Texan born and raised in Texarkana, Texas. I'm a graduate of the University of Memphis and Union University. I'm an educator and currently a director at a prestigious all-Black charter school in Memphis, Tennessee. I'm also the founder of B4A, Beauty for Ashes, and love serving young ladies and women in the States and in other countries. I love empowering women to take what they see as their ashes and transform it into something beautiful.
Nice. So, Alexia, tell us, what is Beauty for Ashes and the background story on how you got started?
So B4A is an organization that answered the call of Isaiah 61. Our mission is to provide others with creative therapeutic approaches to healing that would enhance and promote self-love, self-value, and self-confidence so that we would no longer allow the hardships of life to distract us from our purpose. So we are made up of 4 components: missions, publishing, mentorship, and our Cleft Lip and Palate Foundation. Each component was created out of my healing experience and my own journey of exchanging my ashes for God's beauty. So Beauty for Ashes was created basically from my ashes. So I was going through a heartbreak and was ultimately mad at God, but at the same time wanting God to just heal my brokenness as well as reveal to me the why. And so I went through a healing journey that started in Nairobi, Kenya, in Africa, for God to reveal to me the root cause of my brokenness, that it wasn't a heartbreak from a guy. It was ultimately how I saw myself from birth and my outlook on love. So in Africa, I began writing down everything I viewed as my ashes, which is, of course, again, everything that I did not like about myself or events that happened in my life. And as I wrote down my ashes, God started walking with me to transform each ash I reveal. So he blessed me with mentors to teach me his love in order for me to love myself and others. He exposed me to experience how others in other countries live with less than, but still are filled with joy and gratefulness. He connected me with members of the Cleft community to show me how important it is for me to know my worth in order to help the next generation and their parents instill value and self-worth in them as they go through life with the same birth defect.
First off, I never knew that was your story, and, spending 4 years with you in college, like, I just never knew that was your background story. But I guess we never really just talked about it. So, I'm super excited and thankful that you just shared your experience and how you've gotten to this point today. So, Alexia, tell me about your experience in Kenya and Africa. Do you feel like going into detail with that in mind, sharing your experience?
I would say, one, the people were amazing. Sometimes us Americans, we have like this false narrative of the people are the tribes that still live in the traditional way. And we Americans, we would think that like, oh, they're poor. They don't want to, like, they don't have access to this and that. But one thing I learned about the people of Kenya is they choose. Like, they can go modern, they can go live in the city, but they believe in their culture and they believe in living in certain areas and living a certain way. And so our narrative is completely wrong of them and how they choose to live. And they're so happy and filled with joy. Whereas, like, if we don't have the material things, we're not as joyful or as grateful. I also love how beautiful the land was, because that's where I felt like God and I connected the most, was when I was just sitting in nature, when I'm just outside, when I'm watching, which is crazy, but watching a monkey come and steal my crackers literally off my plate while I sit outside. But just being with nature and not being afraid, but being open to, I guess, what God would like to reveal to me during that time.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I think the part that stood out to me the most was when you said that you mentioned that you connected with God the most when you were in nature. And I think that's so beautiful, because a lot of times, especially for people who meditate, we like to sit out in nature. I know for me as well, I like to meditate outdoors. I like to connect with God and pray outdoors. So I think that's so beautiful that you found that being in nature allowed you to connect with God. So I think that's so beautiful. And again, thank you for sharing that. And, it's interesting that here in America, we value so many materialistic things. And then when you go to other countries, you notice that they don't. So I think it's always interesting to see how other people are living their lives versus us in the States. So thank you for sharing that. So Alexia, when did you discover that you had a cleft lip and palate? And if you feel comfortable with sharing, how did it make you feel? Did you experience any bullying growing up pertaining to your cleft lip and palate?
First, I would like to explain what cleft lip and palate is for the people that do not know what that even means. So the cleft lip and palate is when you're born with your top jaw broken in two. That creates a split in your top lip, which causes your nose also to be either slanted or crooked or flat. Some people are born with the unilateral cleft lip, which is only one. And then some people have a bilateral, which is two splits. The cleft palate, you are basically born without the roof, the palate of your mouth. It doesn't develop. So basically, like, there's a hole in the roof of your mouth that's connected, of course, to your nose, in your ears, which makes it really hard to eat, to suck a bottle or to suck a passy. And it causes major ear infections because, again, there's nothing protecting what's coming in your mouth from your nose in your ears. And so most of us have to go through multiple surgeries. We usually have to get our cleft lip and our cleft palate repair first, so that we can be able to eat, so we can begin the process of learning how to speak. And then we usually have surgery on our ears, because, again, a lot of the things that happen to us, it affects our ears as well. And so that's what cleft lip and palate is. I would say, growing up, I did not realize that I was different or that anything was wrong with me until I was in third grade. It started when I noticed that I couldn't enunciate certain words that my peers were enunciating. And so, like, for example, in my math class, we would go over multiplication facts, and we would have to say right if the answer is correct. Well, I realized I was saying white instead of right. And that was one moment when I realized that there's something different about me. And then I started noticing my smile. And so in elementary, from kindergarten to third grade, everyone's losing their baby teeth. And so me not having certain teeth didn't really impact me, and I didn't really notice because we all were missing teeth. You get in third grade, your adult tooth or teeth start growing or whatever, and I started noticing that some of mine weren't growing back. Like, some of mine weren't growing, actually. And that's when I realized my smile looked different than my peers' smile. And so that was another time that I recognized that there's something different about me. Because, again, my parents were very sheltering. My family was very sheltering. And I grew up at a school where we all knew each other from being babies, toddlers. And so I don't think any of my peers even realized that I was different. But once I got in middle school, I think that's what took the cake for me of, like, really knowing how different I was. My parents decided to move into a different neighborhood, a neighborhood that did not know me. I did not know them. So, of course, when you're with children who do not know you and do not know your birth defect, we just, decide to be mean. And that's just how children are. And so in middle school, I remember I was called dyslexia. I was called the girl with the crooked nose. Even one of my teachers mistreated me. And so once I got in middle school, that's when I think my process of knowing that I am different started, due to bullying and due to being teased. And so I'm not going to lie, in middle school, that's when I believe that I turned a little bit bitter. I believe that's when I hardened my heart and I became like this little mean little thing in order to protect myself from others. Because, like I said, it's hard to be different and to be acknowledged or recognized as someone who has some type of defect when all these years I was never treated different and no one never called me out on being different than them. And so, yeah, I would say middle school is when it went into effect.
Well, what I would say to you is I can personally relate to the comment that you said. You mentioned that it's hard to be different. I know for me personally, just kind of thinking back to my own personal experience, I have always been tall, right? So I think it wasn't until, I would say, middle school for me as well, is where I just realized that I was different from everyone else. I was always taller than everyone else in my photos or anything that we did. Someone would always say, hey, why are you so tall? I remember this boy calling me like a giant or something like that. I look back now and I laugh at it, but I can just personally relate to you when you said that, being different hits hard. It does. It really does. So thank you for sharing that. And I guess my next question for you, Alexia, is how did you overcome your insecurities in regards to your cleft lip? Was it hard to overcome?
So for me, it took years. Literally, I was 30 years old when I finally was able to accept that I have cleft lip and palate. I still say it's an everyday choice that I have to make to speak positive over myself, to tell myself when I look in the mirror that I am beautiful, that I'm worthy of love. I have to be intentional with blocking out what I think people are saying about me when they look at me, too long. Even though, like, most people, they say that they're, like, admiring how attractive I am or whatever. But for me, when you're looking at me for too long, then my insecurities starts to arise and thought starts to fill my head. And so I have to, like, intentionally block out what I think people are saying. I had to also push myself to begin speaking in front of people, small and large crowds, to build my self-confidence and self-worth. I had to share my testimony more because I learned in my healing journey, the best way to heal is to start talking about your healing to others. It makes me more accountable in walking out the journey of healing. But I would still say it's a daily battle, but I'm not afraid or ashamed to talk about my birth defect. It's what makes me who I am. It made me very resilient, strong, and ambitious. And so now, yes, I do feel as if I have overcame my insecurities due to my birth defect. And again, when you ask, was it hard to overcome? It's a continuous, everyday mindset and me speaking life over myself when it comes to my birth defect.
Alexia, I am so excited to just witness your journey because I can't remember if you had this foundation in college, but just to kind of see the woman that you were in college and you were always amazing and witness the woman that you've become is so beautiful. So thank you for sharing that. My last question for you is, if you could tell your younger self one thing, what would it be?
I would tell little Alexia to not harden her heart, but instead love freely, even when it hurts, to continue to love God and to love herself daily. I would tell her, as she loves God and loves herself, she will love others without even trying. I will remind her of all the people that loves her so much, and that she is worthy of receiving love and being loved, and that she herself is love.
Nice. And I like the part that you talked about, extending yourself some grace. Now, if you don't mind, please fill in the blank for me. So, outside of the accolades, the titles, and your accomplishments, who is Alexia Young?
Alexia is someone who cares deeply about others. I feel like I am like a turtle where I have this hard shell on the outside, or people think I have this hard shell on the outside, but honestly, on the inside, I'm a cuddly, soft person who just love being loved and giving love. I am an introvert who people assume is an extrovert because I know so many people, but ultimately I'm an introvert who enjoy being with my community with no shoes on. So that's, for me, I feel like that's who Alexia really is.
The next one, I feel the most empowered when...
I feel the most empowered when I'm doing the work of God, serving his people. So if it's through urban education, to my mentorship, to supporting moms and babies with Cleft and Palate, I feel like when I'm able to serve others, that's when I feel the most empowered.
Nice. Okay. So I wish Black women would...
I wish Black women would be more open about their health in order to help the next woman know that they are not alone in their health issues that impacts Black women. I also wish Black women would break free from the superwoman syndrome. I do feel like us Black women neglect ourselves so much by trying to be perfect in every aspect of our lives. So I wish we would make rest and vacations more of a priority when it comes to Black women.
Well, that was so nice. Well, thank you so much, Alexia, for joining us. How can people connect with you offline?
You can connect with me through my website, alexiayoung.com, or the B4A.org. You can also follow me on Instagram or Facebook under lexia.young.
Alexia, thank you so much for joining us on the Her Complexion podcast. We look forward to the work that you're going to be doing in the future, and thank you for the work that you've done so far. Again, My name is Antoinette, and I hope that you jump on this Black Women in Excellence train with me. Please remember to subscribe to this podcast and check out the show notes for your free e-guide, 5 ways to build your network, and all things Her Complexion membership and merch. Until next time, sis, always protect your melanin.